It gave them a voice. It gave them an opportunity to decide for themselves who they are, the space to do that, the independence to have that opportunity, and the respect of their community, because that's what they are. They're part of a community.
I'm Glenn Herbert, and I'm an editor with Our Kids. We're speaking with insiders from Canada's leading private schools to gain insights into their programs, culture, traditions, and leadership. This includes insights from parents, alumni, and administrators. This is the Our Kids Insider Perspective.
When we were looking at kindergarten for Cameron 12 years ago, we knew very little about Westmont and even less about what a Montessori school was. We visited during an open house and we learned about the small classroom sizes, the low student to teacher ratios, and we were drawn by some of the energy and passion of some of the staff that we met there. We loved the idea that students were able to follow their own interests and passions at their own pace. We had some concerns about Cameron being held back, being restless in an environment where others were setting the pace that he was able to work at. We were, of course, drawn to the beauty of the campus. That was the first thing that we noticed. We'd always wanted to live in Metchosin, and the location of Westmont backing onto Woody's Lagoon was a huge appeal. When Cameron went for his first visit, we all felt so welcomed at the school, and he didn't want to leave. That was a very good starting place. Cameron began Westmont thriving academically and socially right from the get-go. He was a really strong student, a strong reader. I loved that he was encouraged to work at his own pace and read well beyond his age level for reading, which instilled in him a real passion for reading, which I very much appreciate. As teenagers get older, they have alternative means of entertainment, and I love that Cameron will always go back to books. You know, it's a lifelong love, I think, that he'll always have. As Cameron experienced some troubles regulating his emotion, sort of in his upper elementary years, the school was really quick to respond with some means and tools for us to work through those. Classes to help regulate his emotions, or sessions, art therapy, which were incredibly useful tools that helped get us through those sort of challenges. For me, one of the most important things about Westmont is for teens entering their preteen and teen years. The school offers them so much independence and a great deal of respect. So those students have the opportunity to learn on their own terms who they are, how they choose to be valued, rather than being told what's expected of them and told who they're supposed to be. And it was great for them to feel supported and have a voice within that community, but then it also gave them the confidence and a certain bravery to know who they were outside of the school environment. And I am so grateful that they were supported, but given the space to understand who they were. It's such an important lesson for young people to have that room to learn who they are. One of the things Cameron loves about Westmont, particularly at the high school level, are the idea of working on passion projects. It's an opportunity for students to take anything under the sun that is of interest to them and work through it with everything they've got during that term session, whether it's the passion projects or an opportunity for the teachers to find a path forward for Cameron in a subject that he's particularly excited about. They recently had a mock legal trial where Cameron was the defense for a comic book character, and it was the entire high school that was involved in it. Cameron was very excited and passionate and researched for months on this trial. Another passion project was on LGBTQ poets. And again, it's all he lived and breathed for weeks on end, just that level of passion for something that he got to choose. It was his interest. He loves that his passions at school are encouraged and fostered. It makes him excited about subjects that he might not be excited about otherwise. And the other thing that I think Cameron is most appreciative about is his community at the school. The group is fairly small in the high school, but they're very close. He has great friendships that he's developed in his time at Westmont. And he's offered a great deal of respect and support from the students, the teachers. It's just such a warm, supportive community. And I know that he holds that in such a high regard, as do I. I am so grateful to our teachers at Westmont, teachers that are not only passionate about teaching and learning themselves, but also taken the time over the years to get to know my child, to understand who he is, what makes him tick, what he's passionate about, to get to know him as a person as well as a student. Students are at school 5 days a week, 10 months out of the year. The people that surround them in that community should know who they are. And I think that at Westmont, our teachers do that. And I am so grateful for that. I'm also grateful for the academically challenging program at Westmont, not just in a way that's going to feed a great report card for schools, but it's a program that really instills a love of learning, a curiosity for learning. I see it in everything Cameron does. No matter what his latest interest is, he needs to pursue it, completely and entirely to really understand it. I'm so grateful for that. I think that's a lifelong love of learning that he'll always have, not just great grades on a report card. And I am so grateful to Cameron's community, for accepting him and understanding who he is, and allowing him that level of self-awareness so that he himself knows who he is. I'm so grateful that there was a community around him, an environment where he felt that kind of support so he could learn to be who he is. As a parent, you are so grateful for all of that. The values that we've experienced Westmont putting into practice throughout our time at Westmont. Um, I've mentioned a few times now that sense of community, whether that's the students themselves, the teachers, the staff, the families, and that extends out to our participation in the community of Metchosin and Victoria, the charities that we support. With a sense of community is hopefully a sense of respect. The respect that our students have for each other, with our teachers, our families, the respect that we afford the environment that we're stewards for with our location on Whitty's Lagoon. I think that the sense of community and a sense of respect are so important to what Westmont is. So we're not an academic institution, we're a community, and we value and respect the members of our community. The sense of independence, encouraging our students to think independently, act for themselves, to push their boundaries, whether that's in the form of overnight out trips to Camp Thunderbird or immersion out trips in the middle school, but just getting them to take some risks in a safe space, and know that it's a safe place to do that and encourage that independence for them. And then, of course, the sense of academic excellence, but not just academic excellence, but the love of learning. I think that is also so key to what Westmont espouses, and is integral to what Westmont is. Once upon a time when we started 12 years ago, Westmont was a much smaller, more rural community school, and I think the families were a lot more homogeneous then. Westmont's grown, and we have such a wonderful diversity at the school now, culturally, where our families are coming from. And so it makes it harder to pin down what a typical family at the school looks like. But I think the families that choose to stay at Westmont for any length of time are families that value that academic excellence, but in a way where your child is really encouraged to think for themselves, to learn independently. I think those are values that are important. And the families that stay at the school are those that really appreciate the community that we offer, and that respect the same values that we go back to over and over again. I think the families that stay are families that really find those values important to them as well. Something that Cameron's done at the school that they are particularly proud of. Over 12 years, there's been a lot. Whether it's been successes in courses, passion projects, science fairs. There's been a lot, but I think most recently, what comes to mind is Cameron was recently accepted in a volunteer position at Camp Thunderbird, something that he's always wanted to do. And his first interactions with Camp Thunderbird came through Westmont, through knowing other families at the school, and it was the idea of that independence and a love of nature that he learned at Westmont that sort of propelled him through all those years at camp. And I think the values and skills that he learned at Westmont to be independent and to advocate for himself, a respect for the environment and his community, the learning that takes place in a Montessori system where you are constantly teaching and learning from multi-age groups. I think all of those things have contributed to the success that he's now seeing with this position at camp. It all started with values and skills that he learned at Westmont. And so that's something that both he and we are proud of right now, is the idea that he's going to be volunteering all summer. And that idea of community service and giving back is something that as well he would have learned from Westmont. And so that's what comes to mind right now. Our experience with teachers and administrators at Westmont has changed a lot over 12 years. The one thing that's been consistent throughout is an open dialogue with our teachers. If we contacted them for any reason, they would always make time for us, whether that was about school subjects or beyond. We've always been able to communicate with our teachers. The relationships have been different depending on the teacher, but accessibility and communication has always been consistent throughout. The administration is also very accessible. And to be fair, I've become part of the administration after volunteering at this school. I've always felt connected to this school and felt everyone was accessible for communication. And now working at this school is kind of a non-issue. I know that our voice will be heard, but I can see that with other families too. Um, our principal makes a point of being accessible for families. If there is an issue, it's always communication and a groundwork of respect and community. It all goes hand in hand. If I had to choose three reasons for recommending Westmont to another family, it ties back to those things that we find such value in Westmont. Um, your child will be valued at this school. They will be respected as part of a community. They'll be heard. They'll have a voice, and they'll understand how important they are to the community that they're a part of. Um, Academic excellence and not just excellence. Once again, your child is going to learn to love to learn. The teachers will do everything that they can. The community will do everything that they can to engage your child into really being passionate about learning, not just getting A's for a report card. Um, and then the third point is your child will be encouraged to think for themselves, be who they want to be, independent thinking, independent learning, and they'll be challenged to learn what they're capable of. These are all things that will take place if they attend Westmont. I would have you ask both yourself and your child, what are you looking for in a school? Uh, a place where your child's going to spend so much of their time? Are you looking for just an academic or an athletic program? Or are you looking for a school where your child will be part of a community, where you will be welcomed as part of a community, where the learning is beyond academics, where you have a place where your child can engage with a community, with the environment. We'll learn about service learning. We'll learn so much more than just the academic portion of learning, and to think for themselves. If you're someone who wants a child who can be an independent thinker, is going to learn beyond what they're used to and learn to push boundaries, and to educate as a whole child and not just feed the brain, then you might want to think about Westmont. I know that we kind of fluked out with our experience enrolling at the school. It was the great experiment we didn't realize we were part of, and we have been so grateful. It's just been the perfect place for our child, for our family. And those are the questions I think you need to ask. Is what are you looking for in education, and where do you want your child spending 5 days a week, 10 months out of the year, at an academic institution or as part of something bigger?
For more information about this school, you can visit their profile at ourkids.net.